a little delayed. First of all, I want to say that today I announced in Congress, in the first half of the 119th Congress, meaning in 2025 for the full year, I filed 65 bills with the U.S. House of Representatives, 2 of which passed the House and now sit in the Senate. I'm a prolific lawmaker. I file anywhere between 1 and 3 bills a week. And based on the productivity that I have done, and it's not just this last year, but every year that I've been in Congress, now 5 years, puts me ranked number 8 out of 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives. And the kind of energy that I have, whether it's drafting legislation, whether it is working to get appropriations for the state of South Carolina, whether it is regarding getting authorizations for the military, for the state of South Carolina, whether it's getting someone an IRS tax return. I've returned over $37 million to taxpayers in just the last year or two in South Carolina for the work that I've done. But I'm going to bring that kind of energy, that high energy, to the state of South Carolina as governor. So I started off the year by introducing proposals. Some of the proposals you're going to see from me are going to be bills that I have personally drafted. I'm a product of the State House of Representatives. I have passed legislation. I have drafted legislation. I've had legislation signed into law. And so I'm one of the only candidates for governor that has that kind of experience. I am absolutely 100% the only candidate for governor that is going to be giving you policies and ideas for legislation that I've personally drafted. And when we're talking to voters in South Carolina, there are a few areas that are extremely important to voters. Number one is on affordability. We are, in some cases, depending on the data that you look at, we are the first or second or third fastest growing state in the country by population. As we all know, we have a lot of people moving down, particularly to Myrtle Beach and Horry County from New York. We have people from California, from Ohio, from all over the country, particularly blue states. And with that amount of growth, well, there's a lot of historic record revenue coming to the state. The cost of living for a lot of working families has gone up. Now, under President Trump's tenure in his first year during his second term as president, wages are up by about 1% this year. And also the economy is growing. Just in Q4 of last year, the economy grew by over 4%, and on average just over 3% for all of last year on average. So the economy is growing, but also South Carolina is growing. And so how can we address cost of living, affordability issues? Illegal immigration is another issue. Here in Horry County, where we are, there are thousands of students we know, based on the data that the county's provided, that English is a second language. That is one sort of barometer to know where are a lot of the illegal immigrants, where are they living, where are they going. And we know that there are a lot in Horry County, and we know that that's an issue I have personally, and through my office, we receive a lot of information about illegal immigrants being in every part of the state, particularly Horry County, and some of the issues that have come up with that. Certainly roads and bridges. When the, quote, bipartisan infrastructure bill was done, the state of South Carolina only got $1 billion in new money over a 5-year period. The other $5 billion that the state was going to get in that bill was already allocated to the state, was already predetermined. It was happening no matter what. And if you live along the coast, like we are here in Myrtle Beach, or down the coast, to get a bridge over water, it could cost you $1 billion. To do a big interchange like I-26, 526 could take $1 billion. So we have billions of dollars that we need to address and get to our state. And I've been very aggressive. In the last year or two, I've been able to get approximately $400 million in infrastructure dollars by aggressively going after that money in grants for the state of South Carolina. So I'm going to bring that kind of energy to every single thing that I do, that I touch as governor. So in the last 7 days, Piper, what is it, 6 6 proposals have we done? 5 or 6 proposals?
This is the 6th.
This is the 6th proposal. I'm taking Sundays off, okay? But this is the 6th proposal in the last 7 days. Last Saturday, I proposed something called the Aggressive Voyeurism Act. I just had a victim of assault, sexual assault in my office on Monday, but we have a serious issue with apprehending and then prosecuting people who commit sexual violence, whether that is sexual exploitation of a minor, whether that is rape and sexual assault, domestic abuse. We are one of the highest states with really terrible domestic abuse, domestic violence here in our state. They don't get prosecuted, and some people are murdered. And so that was the first bill. What was Monday?
The sunset bill.
So a bill that, it's not my proposal, it was State Senator Tom Davis and State Rep Jeff Bradley have been working on sunsetting regulations for 8 years. 8 years. And the sunset bill has passed out of the House, the State House, twice, unanimously, meaning every single Democrat, every single Republican, and it's gone to sit in the Senate Judiciary Committee now for going on 8 years. That's Senator Luke Rankin's committee. He's the chairman of that committee. So you're going to see us endorse legislation. You're going to see me personally draft legislation, and then you're going to see me come out and oppose legislation. And with the legislature starting next week on the 13th of January, going back in session, we're going to have a lot to say. And so today, this is the second bill that I am proposing related to illegal immigration. So in 2012, the state of South Carolina signed into law a measure that would require E-Verify for our businesses. Now, what we all know is that in the state of South Carolina, if you hang out on the corner of Home Depot at 6 a.m., you can see any number of illegal aliens on the corner. I have heard for the last few years from a number of small business owners, and small businesses are the backbone of South Carolina's economy. I've heard from business owners that have had to compete with companies who are breaking the law and drastically reducing wages against the hard-working earners in South Carolina because they've hired illegal aliens. Now, E-Verify, we have one of the toughest, one of the best E-Verify laws in the country. It was great work that the state did in 2012. But what it did not have was teeth behind it and incentives for businesses to follow the law. I think there's some provision that, hey, you might lose your license for like 30 days. Cool. So what this legislation does, and I'm proposing this particular legislation, I would call it, and if I were governor, the South Carolina Employer Immigration Compliance Act. It gives teeth and actual incentives for companies to follow the law. Now, the state of Florida has this kind of law already. I have modeled it after the state of Florida. They have learned what works. It has been it's court proof. And so what it would do, it would fine a business $1,000 per day if they are caught hiring an illegal alien. But it doesn't stop there. That is the initial fine that they would get from the state of South Carolina if the employer knew or should have known that they hired an illegal alien. If you do it again, the fine increases to $5,000 per illegal for a second offense. And if there is a third offense by the same company, the fine then goes to $10,000. This would also strengthen license suspensions, as I mentioned. It's very watered down in the state of South Carolina. So the incentive would be, on first offense, you lose your license for 30 to 90 days. And if it's a second offense, you lose your license for 90 to 180 days. And if it is a third offense, you get a permanent revocation. Your license is done. You will not get another license from the state of South Carolina. It would require employers who fail to use E-Verify to pay $1,000 a day until they comply. It would create a citizen complaint hotline where citizens could report these things. So in the past, you would just tell your neighbor, tell a friend, maybe post about it on social media, but this would give citizens in South Carolina and business owners a way to report another business that is operating illegally. We want to make sure that we put South Carolina citizens first. We also want to make sure that businesses that play by the rules don't have to compete against the businesses who are breaking the law and who are not playing by the rules and who are cheating the market by hiring illegal aliens. And South Carolina workers shouldn't see their wages forced lower because they have to compete against an illegal alien who doesn't have the same expenses as they have. And so when you're talking about cost of living and affordability being the number one issue in South Carolina, we got to make sure our workers are making more money, that we are cutting taxes, so they're paying less to the government, so they have more money in their pocket that they can afford for daycare, they can afford for groceries, all of that. And we'll get to my tax plan in the future, but that's what I am announcing today. And the last thing that I'm going to mention, and you'll have a copy of the legislation, if I were governor, if it were me, and it passed out of the legislature, out of both chambers, I would sign this into law. But it would require at least 500 random employer audits per year, targeting high-risk industries. Think construction, for example, because we want to make sure that South Carolina workers are put first and they're making the best wages they can to raise their family, work, and retire in the greatest state in the country. And with that, I will open up the floor to questions. Yes, sir.
Just like this confirmed, this is what you would be filing if you were a lawmaker in South Carolina.
Correct. This is a bill that I've drafted. For example, I'm proposing, I would sign this into law.
Sorry, is there any interest to go ahead and give a proxy over in the State House for next week to pre-file this?
I've got lots of proposals coming forward, and what I'm doing, trying to make it easy, is I'm already drafting the legislation and strike and replace type language. You'll see that after the news release. So if there was a lawmaker that would like to pick it up, because I'm not in the state legislature, currently not my jurisdiction because I'm in the Federal House of Representatives, but I've already drafted it for them. I mean, it's right here. I'm literally giving the state legislature, here's the idea, it's low-hanging fruit, it makes the state money, go forth and do it. So you will see a lot of that over the coming days, and I plan to endorse, oppose, draft, write, and present to you 100 different pieces of legislation over the next 100 days. You will never see, you have not seen, not now, not ever, not yet, a candidate for governor that will be as prolific as I will with the type of proposals that I'm coming. And I'm coming forth with low-hanging fruit, common sense, conservative values, but you know, repealing 2-for-1 regulations that I endorsed on Monday. I mean, President Trump did that in his first term. He did that in his first term, and rather than do 2-for-1, they ended up doing 5.5 to 8. They rolled back and repealed 8 regulations for every one. In his second term now, he did an executive order recently that would repeal 10 regulations for everyone. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the state of South Carolina, if you want to hang wallpaper, you have to be registered with the state. It used to be a minimum of $200 a project. Maybe that's one sheet of wallpaper, up until about 2 or 3 years ago. Now I think the minimum threshold is $500, which again, you can't maybe wallpaper a wall in a small bathroom for that, with the cost being so high for everything these days. But we have regulations that just don't really make a lot of sense. And so that's the kind of thing that you're going to see a lot of common sense coming from me. Yes, sir.
Have you had any communication with current state lawmakers while drafting this potential legislation?
Sometimes I reach out to lawmakers. There's a lot of research that I've done that has gone into these ideas, so I'm researching what exists. So I did a proposal, was it Wednesday, don't tax babies? So there are already multiple proposals and bills out there that would not tax baby formula, diapers, and other baby items. They haven't made it out of the legislature. So I just said, well, okay, these ideas are out there. The bills have been filed. So let me simplify the process, because sometimes less is more. If you simplify it, it's easier to pass. So I simplified their bills, kind of put it all into one. I said, just diapers, just formula. If we can get that done, we can do a lot more. So I do talk to state lawmakers. There is extensive research. It is me. It is just me that's coming forth with these ideas. I'm very passionate about the state of South Carolina, making it the biggest and best it can be. Yes.
Can you talk about why it was important for you to make this announcement in Myrtle Beach today?
I'm traveling all across the state. I am very limited with my time because we are in session right now. So I spent the last 4 days in Washington, D.C., and filing bills and working hard for the state of South Carolina and Washington. So I'm trying my best with the time that I have to be everywhere across the state of South Carolina. Ori is Trump country. It's a very important part of the state, and we will be getting to every county as quick as we can. Hey, let me get over here and I'll get back to you. Yes, sir.
Okay, so the construction business in Lake County, depending upon the year, is a minimum of $30 billion annual industry. Coastal Carolina Association of Realtors is one of our most powerful lobbying groups in the country. On this illegal immigrant hiring order, I know they hire a lot of them. Do you expect a lot of political pushback on this?
They should be prioritizing South Carolina citizens for those jobs. And if they're not, they're breaking the law. It's already against the law because there was a law signed in 2012 that you have to use E-Verify. Illegal immigration is illegal. And we're seeing President Trump round up illegals all across the country and deporting them. He's even paying them to self-deport. And so this legislation puts South Carolina workers first. I want a state where we have very few people on unemployment. I want to make sure that every South Carolina has the right ability and opportunity to get a good paying job so they can raise their family, work, and live here. But I've also worked on like work visas before at the federal level. We have a real issue. I think you could solve the illegal immigration issue by increasing some of the caps. South Carolina relies on work visas, whether it's farming or whether it's tourism. Here in Myrtle Beach, the amount of tourists that come here, especially from the Northeast, Myrtle Beach relies on workers from other countries with work visas. And so that's something that is federal, not state. And I have worked on legislation regarding that too. Because we required, and our economy demands that we have workers from other countries, but there's already a legal worker visa process that they should be using. They shouldn't be coming here illegally. Yes. Mm-hmm. How public schools will be what? Oh, immigration enforcement is a federal issue. I mentioned it as an example. This is a county that has a larger percentage of students who are English as a second language. So that just goes to show where some of a lot of illegal immigrants are. I will tell you, you can also look at crime statistics. Recently in, I believe it was Dorchester County, there were 3 Tren de Agua members arrested. They raided a gun store. We've had a lot of issues with human trafficking and sex trafficking. South Carolina as a whole, the last couple of years, human trafficking is up by over 400%. And there is a connection there, obviously, with criminals who are here, illegals who are here, the cartels and the gangs that are here, are all wrapped up in that. And so even in my hometown of Goose Creek, I think 4 or 5 years ago, there was a human or sex trafficking ring. Over 20, 25 people were arrested in Goose Creek, South Carolina. So again, it's something that we want to help the president clean up our streets and clean up the crime. You have places in South Carolina, entire streets in some communities where MS-13, Sinaloa Cartel, Tren de Agua have taken over. So, we got a real problem. We're a smaller state, so the problem isn't like what it is in Minneapolis, but it's still a problem. All right? Yes, sir.
Alan Wilson named his running mate today. Did you have any initial thoughts, and how close are you to naming your own running mate?
Mike's a great guy.
How close are you to naming your own?
It's still, what date is it, January 9th? It's still very early. You're going to see me really focused on policy and legislation and positions over the next 100 days or so. That's where my focus is going to be, what I have accomplished already for South Carolina and what I intend to do as governor.
Could you maybe comment on the kind of characteristics or the background you'd like to see with your lieutenant governor?
I think that it's important, the governor's seat is not as powerful as other governorships across the state. And then the lieutenant governor position is even weaker than our own governor, right? And so for me, I would see that individual's responsibilities extending beyond where they are, someone that is understanding of state law and how we need to maybe change it, someone who has got a business mindset that can walk into a room and talk to investors that want to bring their companies here. There are billions of dollars sitting on the sidelines waiting to come into South Carolina, investors, businesses, companies, but they're hesitant to do it because of the high taxes we have here. Excuse me. So someone who not only understands the law and understands how we can change it, but someone who understands the business climate and how to grow South Carolina's economy, and someone who's just very high energy and shares the same conservative values as our state does.
Nancy, I know you mentioned Home Depot, ESOL, for construction. Do you have any more kind of harder numbers that show there's a prevalence of illegal immigrants here in Horry County?
Well, there's already data out there. I don't have it. Piper can send it to you afterwards about the number of illegals who are in the state of South Carolina. But you don't have to go far. I mean, we just had a woman shot, I guess in the Midlands, upstate a little bit recently, maybe a couple months ago, by 3 to 6, illegals. So they're everywhere. And we're talking about, and I've done ride-alongs with local law enforcement, and, they talk about MS-13 that's here, how Sinaloa cartel has taken over certain neighborhoods, where Tren de Agua is. I mean, I went on an ice raid a couple months ago. I mean, I've seen these things firsthand. They're here, it's a problem, and we're going to clean it up. And again, showing you one way how to do that. Anybody else over here before we monopolize? Great questions.
Do you know about how many ICE or facilities there will be across the state that you plan for that will be used to house these illegals?
So right now, I've floated this idea, and you'll see me propose it more concretely in the days and weeks ahead. But we have approximately over 400 bed spaces in various facilities across the state where we could house illegal aliens as ICE is rounding them up and deporting them in the state of South Carolina, I believe, and then the state would get reimbursed by the federal government. So not that it's facilities per se, it's using existing buildings, structures, dwellings, facilities we already have on the books that aren't being utilized, and then finding a way to utilize them to help the president implement his agenda. So that's where you're going to see me go in terms of the policy on how to do that. So less about like brick and mortar, but what we already have that we're not using that we could then use to help the country deport more illegals. All right.
Please.
College Charleston.
The South Carolina Republican Party announced the upcoming debate schedule for the gubernatorial campaign.
4 debates, right?
Yep. The first one's going to be here in Horry County. What are you most looking forward to discussing on stage?
Well, I first want to say half the debates are on days when Congress is in session. So Ralph Norman and I technically can't even attend them because the Republican Party has rigged it against conservatives. So when I am able to debate, and I got to make a decision about that, but it was wrong for Drew McKissick to do that. He's trying to rig the debates against myself. I mean, one of those two is in my district when I'm in D.C. I mean, it doesn't get any more obvious than that. So what is Drew McKissick so scared of? That's my question. But when we do get the chance to debate, I'm very much looking forward to addressing every issue that voters are concerned about. Affordability, cost of living, illegal immigration, crime, law and order, education, energy policy. One of the things that you have not heard a single gubernatorial candidate talk about is the energy crisis that we have here in South Carolina. Last summer, I was told the state had to shut down 1, 2, or 3 facilities in the hottest week of the year to keep the lights on. And we do have some projects that are happening right now that would bring more LNG or liquid natural gas here. We're not going to have a new nuclear structure or facility for a while. It's going to take several years for that to happen, but I know that our energy companies are working with the state and the federal government to do that. I want to thank Governor McMaster for his leadership on building out a plan for nuclear. Growing nuclear in the state of South Carolina is desperately needed. And if you all, because you're in the news, you're reading about these data centers that are popping up right and left in many counties across the state, how are we going to power those data centers? And to what extent are we taking power from residents and putting it into a commercial structure, and we don't have the capacity for it? I really wish that we as a nation had small nuclear reactors. I'm an all of the above approach. Japan has them, France has them. We don't have them. So that is one thing that I think we as a nation should be focused on, to growing nuclear, because with a small nuclear reactor, you can residually grow the capacity to produce energy at that nuclear reactor. And that's the kind of thing I would, if it were me and we had them, I'd put them at every single data center across the state. Now, one of the things that I have been working on in the energy space over the last couple of months, because our energy capacity is limited, critical infrastructure is weak, is finding ways. I'm all of the above. I'm everything. I mean, I am everything, all of the above, to make sure that, and I think I just read the other day, they want to hike energy prices in the state. After they've just been hiked, they want to hike them again in the state of South Carolina. People are going to push back on that. But I have been working with the Department of Energy and the EPA looking at backup generator energy. So a data center might have it. Airports, for example, big manufacturing facilities. Under the Biden administration, backup generator energy could, in a lot of cases, could only run a few hours at maximum capacity per year. Technically, it was 50 hours, and when Trump was sworn in, I worked to get the EPA to clarify that ruling. They took it to 50 maximum capacity energy for the year. They're looking at, I believe, either doubling it or having no limit. That is one thing I am advocating for until we get nuclear here. It's harder to do in South Carolina because of the regulatory climate. You'd almost have to deregulate some of the energy market here. But I do know that the state has looked at the Southeastern Energy Market, or SEAM, and joining that to be able to get energy off of other markets and bring it here to the state. We have LNG coming up from the south through Jasper County, through Kinder Morgan. I mean, there are things that are happening, but obviously it's a nationwide issue. But that's something that I am deeply passionate about, because I want to keep the lights on and keep it affordable to keep the lights on. Education, women and kids, as you all know, is a major, major issue. We have an attorney general last year who prosecuted exactly 0 pedophile cases in court. 0. And you'll see more information about that, I believe, next week. I FOIA'd the Attorney General in his office. I'm dealing with a lot of angry moms today because we just had another alleged pedophile arrested and let out of jail the same day. We have a pedophile, convicted pedophile in the state of South Carolina that had 1,900 images of toddlers as young as 3 in his possession, facing 60 years. Toddlers as young as 3 being raped by animals. He served 1 day in jail. So South Carolina, under our Attorney General, has become a paradise for pedophiles. So you're going to see me coming out with more ways to ensure that this ends. We got parents all across the state worried about who's living near their schools, because we don't send pedophiles to jail. They don't serve sentences. They barely get on the sex offender registry. And then after 15 years, they can appeal to get off. So you're going to see me, I'm going to tackle all the issues. And you're going to see an avalanche of policy and ideas unlike any other candidate for governor in your lifetime. All right, one last question. Anybody else? And then we're out. Appreciate y'all very much. Thank you for being here. Piper's the gal. If you need anything or have a follow-up question, she's more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're done.
I was trying to get more, like, we're good. They stopped.